Esther Perel, The State of Affairs, Rethinking Infidelity. Ask any American in a committed monogamous relationship, and she'll probably tell you the same thing. Cheating destroys trust. It's the lowest blow you could deliver, the ultimate form of betrayal. And yet, meanwhile, millions of Americans in committed monogamous relationships continue to cheat. Even if you can find examples of individuals who've remained utterly faithful to their current partners, the number of adult Westerners who've never cheated is low. So are unfaithful partners evil? Or is it perhaps that our prevailing views on infidelity are in need of some revision? These links address these and other complex questions, offering real-life examples to give a clearer picture of an often murky subject. Blank number 1. Infidelity is hard to define, but most instances of infidelity have a few things in common. We've all wondered about it, exactly how many people cheat on their partners. Is it a rare aberration or a common occurrence? Well, such questions are hard to answer because cheating is difficult to define. There's never been universal consensus on what constitutes infidelity. Today, however, the issue is even more complex thanks to dating platforms and apps such as Tinder. For example, are you betraying your partner by engaging in flirtatious online chatting? But even if you ignore the internet, the boundary between fidelity and infidelity is hard to pin down. Are you cheating if you sleep with a sex worker? If you get a lap dance? What if you're in a heterosexual relationship and you sleep with someone of the same sex? These definitional difficulties have resulted in widely varying estimates of infidelity in the United States. Some studies conclude that 25% of the U.S. population has been unfaithful, others that it's closer to 70%. However, most studies concur that infidelity is on the rise. This increase is due, in large part, to an uptick in the sexual adventurousness of women. In fact, in 2007, psychologist Rebecca J. Brand conducted a study whose definition of infidelity included romantic feelings, kissing, and touching. But by this definition, college-aged women were more likely to be unfaithful than men. Now, despite this lack of clear definition, it is possible to identify a few elements shared by the majority of infidelities. In the author's experience, infidelities usually include one of the three following elements: secrecy, sexual chemistry, or emotional involvement. An act may qualify as cheating even if none of these elements are present. However, more often than not, at least one of these things is part of the recipe. Secrecy, in addition to adding excitement to an affair, is often what hurts the betrayed partner the most. Learning that your partner kept you in the dark can be much more painful than knowing that your partner is having an affair. Actual sex isn't necessarily part of a sexual connection. Engaging in intense flirtation can be just as sexual as having a one-night stand and can constitute just as much of a betrayal. Lastly, almost all affairs include some kind of emotional involvement. Again, the emotional side of infidelity often causes more pain than the merely physical part. Blink number 2. Infidelity hurts because it threatens the identity of both the betrayer and the betrayed. Most people build their identities around relationships: love, partnership, trust. Without them, most of us would be utterly lost. An act of infidelity can call these things into question and shake the very foundations of our identities. Indeed, that's why infidelity hurts. It threatens our sense of self. If you spend years as part of a couple, then your identity will inevitably become interwoven with your role as partner. This is why people betrayed by long-term partners often feel as though they no longer know who they are. They believe that the betrayal is an abandonment, and that they've been abandoned because they weren't adequate. This makes them begin to question their self-worth. Identity and partnership are more enmeshed in America than in many other cultures. For instance, the author, Ms. Perel, asked a community of Senegalese women about infidelity, and they said that, though upset and saddened by betrayal, they didn't feel that it posed a threat to their senses of self. Men simply did such things, and besides, they tended to derive a sense of self-worth from their community rather than their partners. This is not the case in the United States. Indeed, Americans tend to believe that romantic love is life's supreme achievement, and it's this myth that leads them to construe acts of infidelity as crises of identity. But it's not only the betrayed partner that may lose her sense of self. The betrayer often has a similar experience. Affairs can be fun, which of course is why people have them. However, if found out, the person having the affair will be forced to see himself through the eyes of his partner. This is rarely flattering and can be deeply unsettling. Just consider the following case. Ms. Perel once had a client, let's call him Costa, whose father had been domineering and unfaithful. Costa, having seen the pain this caused his mother, was determined to be a different kind of partner. As an adult, however, he overcompensated by putting a lid on his passions, adopting a stiff and formal manner with his wife. It wasn't until he met his lover, Amanda, that he could reconnect with his passions and toss aside the identity he'd taken on as a husband. But shedding his spousal identity also meant assuming a new one. He was now the polar opposite of the person he truly felt himself to be. Rather than a faithful husband, he was a cheater, just like his father. Link number 3. Jealousy is taboo in Western society, but it may also be necessary for love. Literature is full of love and betrayal, and of course jealousy. Indeed, jealousy propels the plots of many classics, from Euripides' Medea to Shakespeare's Othello. So why do Western self-help books that purport to address all aspects of love and betrayal leave out this crucial component? Well, in Western society, jealousy has become taboo. In Western countries, betrayed partners often focus on the betrayer's failings and immorality, drawing attention to the duplicitousness and deception that cheating involves. They rarely discuss jealousy because to admit to such a petty emotion would be to cede the moral high ground. Compare this to how jealousy is handled in many non-Western countries. The couples therapists Michelle Schenkman and Denise Wernick, who both work in Brazil, report that jealousy is usually the centerpiece of counseling sessions for Brazilian couples dealing with infidelity. Unlike most Westerners, Brazilians tend to assume and accept that people lie, and so betrayed partners rarely position themselves as morally superior. Rather, they wonder whether their partners still love them and what the rival lover is providing that they aren't. Prior to about 1970, jealousy was also regarded as normal in the West. Women were expected to hide their jealousy and to avoid exciting any such feelings in their husbands, but men were free to show and act on feelings of jealousy. But as women became more sexually and socially emancipated, and the concept of equal partnership took hold, jealousy became a shameful emotion for both sexes. This isn't necessarily a good thing, however. Jealousy isn't a feeling that Westerners learn to welcome, but we do well not to reject it outright. After all, if you love someone and you invest time and hope and trust in your relationship with that person, then it's only natural to feel vulnerable. What's more, a bit of jealousy, a tiny healthy bit, can actually strengthen partnerships. After all, seeing that your partner is slightly jealous is a sort of proof that he or she loves and cares for you. If someone were to approach you flirtatiously, you'd expect your partner to be jealous. So remember, jealousy can also be an indicator of love. Blink number 4. It's often hard to decide whether to reveal or conceal an affair. In the West, love and lies are often seen as mutually exclusive. If you're in a committed relationship, you cannot lie to your partner, especially not about infidelity. It might be painful, but no matter what, it's your moral duty to come clean. This, at least, is what we've learned to believe, but it's rarely so cut and dried. Just consider Lena, who found herself in a moral quandary. Several months after getting engaged, she went to a college reunion party, got drunk, and slept with an ex-boyfriend. She was hesitant to admit this to her fiancé because his ex-wife had cheated on him with his best friend. Admitting the booze-fueled infidelity might have brought a premature end to a promising partnership. Would it really have been worth it? Another example is Yuri, who used to fight with his wife. The conflict only stopped when he began a clandestine affair. In fact, his infidelity improved their sex life. Yuri not only ceased hassling his wife for more sex, he and his wife also had an easier time enjoying sex when they both felt like having it. Revealing the affair might have endangered this positive arrangement, so would coming clean be the right thing? It's hard to say. However, there are some cases where it's clearly better to maintain secrecy. For instance, imagine a man on his deathbed. His wife, who's cared for him during his cancer, is beside him. Knowing that he'll soon be gone, he feels the urge to finally tell his wife that during most of their long marriage, he was having an affair. If he acts on this urge, he'll be putting his wife in a terrible position. Not only will she be left to mourn his death, she'll also have to grapple with the horrendous revelation that, for all those years, he had a mistress. Remember, telling the truth can sometimes be an act of selfishness or even cruelty. It's important to know exactly why you want to tell the truth. Do you have your partner's best interests in mind, or are you only trying to allay your own guilt?